The Moody Blues are releasing a deluxe edition of To Our Children's Children's Children. But is it any good? Let's find out, shall we? These Moody sets are absolutely fantastic, really good quality, where they collate archive recordings, live stuff, BBC sessions, all the stuff that you really want in a set like this. And what's interesting about this one, as I want to discuss today, is the new mix of the album. I must admit I really enjoyed In Search of the Lost Chord. In fact, I think this one should be rather waggishly dubbed In Search of the Lost Apostrophe. However, that being said, I always felt the original mix felt a little bit flat, which often these things belie the production affectations of the time. I read somewhere that this was perhaps the poorest selling album of the classic Moody's period, that sort of psychedelic 60s run of albums that they did from Justin Hayward joining, and their transition from being a kind of a Birmingham beat group to psychedelic pioneers shaped by that wonderful mellotron-drenched music. And this one is remarkable as it dwells on time and the passing of time and fluctuates between acoustic whimsy to quite rocky numbers in many respects. But what it does do is it evokes a peculiar feeling of loneliness and isolation. It certainly has a kind of an ache to it. Apparently this was the last of the band's big studio sound, those big productions, as they found they were having difficulties reproducing this material live. And I believe after this album the music became a little bit more stripped back, with a view to faithfully playing these songs in concert. There are no extended suites on this one. We do get some beautiful acoustic pieces, and as well as the Thundering Gypsy. My word, Thundering Gypsy sounds like a 1970s porn movie. This is certainly one of my favourite albums. Not so lysergic and trippy as In Search of the Lost Chord, but it's still pretty damn solid. And if I'm not mistaken, it was recorded just after their appearance at the Isle of Wight Festival. So let's talk about the content included in this set. We do get the Dave Simmons Sunday concert recorded on the 17th of December 1969. A wonderful session to have here. It sounds a little bit garbled in places, but certainly not bad for an excavated BBC tape. The live at the Royal Albert Hall is one of the highlights for me. It sounds absolutely wonderful. It was recorded in '69, but released, I think, in the late 70s. I think you Moody fanatics will be able to put me right here. It was re-released in the late 70s, but what we do get here is a new mix of that, and it sounds absolutely great. But then it was recorded on 8-track, of course. But that sounds fair. There's a new mix, of course, and it all sounds, I think, better balanced overall. But more interestingly, I'd like to talk about the brand new stereo mix of this album, how it differs from the original mix. So if you'll forgive me, I'm going to read from my computer screen. I don't consign this to memory. The wizard behind the curtain is on full display here. So if you get a bit of light glaring up at my face, it's from my laptop. A bit like that opening of that briefcase in Pulp Fiction. Anyway, higher and higher, more powerful and vibrant, better balance of all the instruments. Eyes of a Child, the harp sound sounds brighter, as well as the sound of what I think is an oboe. I could be wrong there. It's not so centred, the vocals are brought forward and are not so buried in the mix. There was a prominent echo added to the word now, which wasn't in the original mix, which gives it the whole thing a more lysergic and kind of trippy feel, which is always good in my books. And there's some more percussive elements that I think were perhaps buried a little bit in the original mix, which have been brought to the fore here. Floating, greater emphasis on the echo on the voice here, I think, and the backing or accompanying vocals are a little bit more prominent. Eyes of a Child Part 2, some lead guitar flourishes have been brought forward, I think, and the vocals don't feel so central. I Never Thought I'd Live to Be 100, which is a delightful number, beautiful use of Hayward's voice here. Delightful, whimsical number, the guitar is brighter, more prominent, his vocals have been brought forward in the mix. I think there's slightly more echo as well, gives it an ethereal, floaty feel. Beyond, the bass is quite prominent, I think, and the horrible stereo panning you got on the original mix is thankfully gone. I think that stereo panning was a kind of a 1960s affectation that just sounds so dreadful now, I think. Out and In, much more thrum to the guitar, and Gypsy sounds fabulous, especially that guitar riff at the start, really bright and arresting. Drums are a little bit subdued in the mix, I think, but Hayward's voice has been forward a bit. better than the original, as it feels you can actually discern and enjoy the individual parts a little bit more. Eternity Road just sounds more vibrant. You can hear the flute flourishes, I think, at the start of the mix. Candle of Life, I'm really torn with this one. This is one of my favourites on the album. Hayward's voice has been brought forward a little bit in the mix, but I sometimes feel it kind of ruins the atmosphere of the song. I think I might prefer the actual original mix of this number. The sun is still shining, everything sounds more distinct, clearer, still possesses that Eastern thrum, of course. It preserves the atmosphere of the original. I never thought I'd live to be a million. I'll refer you to what I said about track 5 and Watching and Waiting. Not much difference here apart from Justin's voice has been lifted, and there's been greater emphasis placed on the acoustic guitars, I think. Unfortunately, I can't share my thoughts on the 5.1 mixes as I do not have a 5.1 sound system. And this, of course, features 5.1 surround sound mix, probably of both mixes, I guess, as well as the Albert Hall. Anyway, let's unbox it, shall we? Right, yeah, so here we have the box set itself. These come in a really nice, sturdy, good quality box, which they're quite pricey as well, so that's the very least we'd expect. It has text on the spine as well, turn that round. And it contains 5 discs in total. Of course, we get disc 1, which is the original album remastered, which I quite actually enjoy, the remastering of the original album. And it has disc 2, which includes some alternate versions, as well as the BBC Radio 1 Dave Simmons Sunday concert sessions. Disc 3 is live at the Royal Albert Hall, recorded on the 12th of December 1969, and that's a new stereo mix, and that's absolutely fabulous. Disc 4 is the new stereo mix of the album, mixed from the original master tapes by Stephen W. Taylor. And disc 5 is a lot of Blu-ray content, which is essentially the album. To Our Children's Children in 5.1 sound mix, original stereo mix, and the new stereo mix, so both are there, as well as the live at the Royal Albert Hall. So let's get this opened up, shall we? There we are, the wonderful booklet. We'll go through that in a minute. And a nice ribbon pull will bring out the CDs, all the discs. CD 1, CD 2, so that's what it looks like on the back of these as well. CD 3, that's the same. CD 4, and the Blu-ray disc, which is this one. And there we have, that's what the discs generally look like, very faithful to the original label. So here is the booklet, which is a wonderful quality. It's full of great pictures and lots of information. So let's have a closer look at this, shall we? Brilliant pictures. Love these early shots. These are obviously pictures from the Albert Hall gig. Different variations of the picture. I love all this stuff as well, where they put in sort of single sleeves and sort of foreign single sleeves as well. Here's obviously the track listing. There we go, that's the book. Wonderful, wonderful. It's a wonderful set, well worth the money. And here's the sticker that was on the front of the box, which I tend to keep these things. I get very anal about collecting this stuff now. So let's put it all back together. So there we are, that's the Moody Blues to our children's children. This is the deluxe edition. This will be released on the 12th of May. And I would really, really recommend it. I think it's an absolutely fabulous addition to any set. I will include purchasing links just below this video, should you want to check it out. Anyway, thank you for watching a video by Classic Album Review. I hope you're well, staying safe, but more importantly that you keep listening.